Alright YouTube, how's it going? Buster here. I've said for a wee while I was going to do a setup video and I've never had a chance to do it. So what I've did is I put a video up yesterday of I've took the neck off of this Chinese Squire and I've put it on my Aria Pro 2 Madax, and I've took the Aria Pro 2 Madax neck and put it on this. I was kind of swaying about what to do because of the fact that this is a Squire, but because I've modded it, I'm not too worried. I'm not too thinking about keeping it as a Squire. I'll probably never sell this anyway, so it's not as if it's going to be for resale. Then obviously I'm doing the yellow one to be little Duff McKagan's. So enough babbling. So what I use is radius gauges. Buy these off Amazon, AliExpress, places like this. There's all different radiuses for your fretboard. So I've already checked it out. The radius of this board is 10. So that will come. I'll show you how I use that in a minute. What else I'd use is this credit card style gauge you in metric and imperial. So I always set the bass string at about 2mm and I set the treble to about 1.7 or 1.5 mil. That's the distance between the two. I always use the 12th fret. So, and also you need Allen keys. Handy to have the ones in the box. I used to always have the metric ones, but I bought a high mass bridge that was imperial, so I had to buy the full box. I always try and keep all my Allen keys in the one box so you don't lose them. I've already pre-shimmed the neck and I use basically the edge of a melamine board. That's the plastic that if you ever kitchen worktops or anything like that, I always kind of, anytime I ever see a bit in the scrap or in a bin, I always go and take this off because it's handy for shims because it doesn't compress. You can use sandpaper. You don't want to really use paper or cardboard because it will compress when you screw the neck in together. So once you shim it, you want the shim to stay where you've put it. I've guessed that the shim is basically the thickness of two of these, just out of previous. I might have to change it, I don't know. The fretboard, truss rod's been totally disengaged. I'm starting from the fretboard being totally flat. So what I'll do is I'll switch my amp on because I'm going to need to put it up to pitch. Well, obviously I can't do that just now because the strings are flat against the fretboard. So what I'll do is I'll take my Allen key and I'll lift the saddle. And I'll put it on its side. I'll use the gauge and I'll roughly put it at 2mm, which that is, but 2 turns, 2 full turns. Did it, put it on its side again. It's probably about 2 turns. And that'll be up to 1.75 on the wee scale. See, the problem that I was having with this when it did have the Squire neck on it was the fact that these adjusters were too high. So I knew I had to shim the neck anyway. So what I'll do is use the radius gauge and I'll put it over the strings. Now that I've set the base to 2mm, I've set the treble to 1.75, and then I'll bring the 2 middle strings up to meet the radius gauge, and that makes sure that your strings are going at the same radius as your fretboard. So it might take a few turns to do this. I think I've put enough shims in it. You kind of get to know when you're doing setups of guitars and stuff like that how much shim you need to put in, and that's why I use the melamine, because I know roughly how thick that is. It's roughly I don't even know how thick it is, but I've been using it for that long. I just kind of guess once the guitar's set up and I know I need to shim it, I can guess how much of that I need to put in. So I'll just lift these up and down till I get it till the strings are going at the same radius as the board. That looks about right. So basically your strings should just be touching the radius gauge. So I've got that roughly where I want it. So what I'll do now is I'll put it up to pitch. So I've obviously got this plugged into the P-bass side, not the... I have got a neck. I've got a neck brace somewhere, but I don't know what I've done with it. I should have looked at it really, so I didn't have to mess about. That's me putting the guitar up to pitch. I can hear the truss rod rattling when I'm doing it, so what I'll do is I'll check down the neck. The neck's totally flat, so what I'll do is I'll take an Allen key. It should be a 5mm for this, 5mm Allen key, and I'll just tighten up the rod a wee bit. In fact, it's not that was a 4.5 I lifted, so it'd be 5mm. When you're doing your truss rod, what you want to do is make sure you use the right Allen key, and you need to make sure that it's right into your truss rod adjuster, because you don't want it to slip and mash up the... So I've put the truss rod, I've tightened the truss rod up, so I'll put it back into, bring it all back up to pitch again. I'll fit on the guitar on that. That's me turn the volume for the humbucker. Done this a few times and that treble string snapped and it made some racket. So I'll check the guitar again. check all the frets. That's down at the, that's probably down at the 12, 17 frets buzzing. So what might be happening is there's not enough relief in the neck. So, or I might have put too much shim in it. That's what might be happening. Or the fact that, yeah, so what I've done is I've put too much shim in the neck. So 2 was too much. So what I'll do is I'll take off the strings, or loosen the strings off, and I'll take one of these shims out. So I'll do that just now, turn that off. So what I would do here is I wouldn't even take the strings all the way off. I would just loosen the strings off. Because I'm doing it in the video, it's went obviously wrong. So I think there's too much shim in that. So I'll take the neck off. I've got a ratchet, I don't use a screw gun to do the neck bolts. If you use a screw gun, there might be a chance that you thread the neck bolt, so you don't want to do that. I mean, it might work out that I might not need a shim at all. I think I might. I think I might need at least one of the shims in, kept in. The neck's just jumped out. It's trial and error. So take one of these shims out, put the neck back in the pocket, screw it back up. I wouldn't tighten the bolts all the way up straight away, or your screws up straight away. Just get it so it nips together. And then once you've got all your screws in, you can then nip them up to the. You don't want to tighten them too much because you can snap the bolts. Done that before, snap the bolt, or a screw should I say. I've kept the Aria Pro 2 neck plate on this, surely because the fact that the screws in this was fatter than the Squire, plus it's not a Squire anymore. So that's me took one of these shims out, turn it back up. Turn this back up again. Turn it back up, sorry. And I'm trying, this is the first time I've done some of this on video, so I'll try to talk through what I'm doing. So that's it back up to pitch again. So what I'll do is I'll check it. No fret, it's no buzzing out, it's no fretting out anymore. So one shim was enough. I thought 2, but I was going off the original neck. The original neck would have definitely needed 2. So what I'll do now is try to keep this in the video. Sorry, I know it's the first time I've been doing something like this. So I'll get my gauge again and check it. So that's now well above the 2, and that's well above the 1.75. Check down the neck. The neck is bang on straight. So what we'll do is I'll get my Allen key again, then I'll drop the saddles to 2. I know I'm off camera, but try to drop this bridge back down to where I need it to be on the 12th fret. Obviously doing this in one take, I don't do editing and stuff like that, so there you get your gauge. So that's me drop them back down, get my 10 gauge again, so I need to drop the middle 2 strings down. I think I'm going to have to just either live with the fact that these saddle adjusters screws, the grub screws, are sticking out well too far, or we're going to change them to smaller ones, because I think I'm just going to have to live with the fact there is plenty of room on the adjustment on this now, but before, when I had the squire neck on it, there was nothing. The saddles were actually touching the plate. I'll try to lean over. So what we'll do now is we'll tune it back up again. And that's it, back up to tune. Action's still quite low. Fretboard is straight, I don't know if you can see that. So that's it playing. Wee bit of buzz there. But what that's doing is I've changed the bass pickups, P-bass pickups. It's hitting off of the. So what I would do there is I put my finger on the very last fret, and you take your same gauge, and you basically want the same distance. When your finger's down, you want the same distance as your gauge on your 12th fret as you do between the string and the pickup. So if your treble side is 1.5 or 1.75, so when you put your finger on the very last fret, you want the distance between the flat of the pickup or the pole, if you've got the pole, off the pole, is 1.75. And you do the exact same with the bass side. It needs to be down a bit more. You want 2 mil. That's just roughly. You can adjust them perfectly the way you want yourself, and then you just do the centre ones to match. And normally what I do is, the minute that the corners, so the minute the corners of the P-bass pick up there, touch, that's it. Basically, that's the way I do it. So that's the pickup height set as well. No more buzzing, no hitting off the pickup anymore. So at your 12th fret, you're at the bass side, you're at 2 mil. Treble side, 1.5 to 1.75 on the scale, on that wee thing. You buy these off of Amazon and stuff as well. Check the radius, make sure your strings are going to the radius of your fretboard. Done the truss rod adjuster, depending, you could either have your board totally straight, which will help with slapping. If you do finger, relief in it. I'm going to leave it flat just now, because what you want to do is get your guitar set up like this and then leave it for a day, especially if you're putting on new strings. Make sure your strings are stretched, let it settle, and then just double check it again. Just do the same process, make sure your strings are at the same height, your guitar's at the radius, then you can check your board and you put a wee bit of relief in it or have it totally flat. I'm going to leave this one totally flat, for the purpose of the fact that I probably don't play it that often. So if it's got a bit of relief in it, you've started to make the neck go towards the strings, where if it's sitting flat, worst case it's going to do with changing temperature is pull the fretboard, pull the headstock towards the body, and then put a wee bit of bend in your neck that way. So it's going to go that way if it's going to sit and do nothing. So I'd rather have it flat, so it's playable the way it is. There's no fret buzz, but there's no chance of changing weather, changing conditions that this headstock's or this neck's going to start bending this way, because that's what will happen. There's no chance of the neck going this way, because there's nothing against it. It will go that way. So if you've put relief in it and you've let it sit at changing temperatures, then your neck will continue to go that way. If you've got it, you know what I mean, it makes sense that way. That's the way I see it. If it's flat, worst case, it's going to put a bend in it going that way, and it's not going to be much. So I'll leave this flat. It's still playable, so it's not as if it's not playable. So the next thing after that, and now that I've adjusted the truss rod the way I wanted it. I mean, some people say not to adjust your truss rod when you're under string tension. Why they say that is so you don't, if you're new to fixing guitars, you don't crank it. You do it in like small increments. You don't just crank it, because what will happen, you will snap a truss rod. But if you just do a little quarter turn, I'm leaving a quarter turn at a time, let it settle, be quarter turn. I didn't have to do much. Basically all I did with this was I loosened the truss rod off altogether. So all I basically did was the adjuster, I just nipped the adjuster up just till it was catching and no more. That's it. So we've got a pickup set up. I'm going to say this is the way I set my bass up. Just because this is the way I set my bass up doesn't mean it's the golden rule. It's just a basic setup. It's worked for me for so long. When I do repairs and stuff, this is the way I set up a bass, and people got to be happy. It gives you enough room that you've still got adjustment. But what you need to remember as well is when you set up if you set it up with one set of strings, so the gauge is the same, these are Johnny Brooks. If I was to change these strings, I would then need to reset up the whole guitar with a different set of strings. So if I change these to even rotal sounds, even though they're really close to rotal sounds, I'd still check everything. That's just the way it is. It's just the same with a guitar, like a 6-string guitar. If you set up a guitar with 9s on it, and then you put 10s on it, the tolerances are all different. So next thing of that is, this was obviously intonated for the Squier neck. It might not be different. I mean, the distance between the nut and this might be a mil out, so therefore you would want to check your intonation. So the way I do that is make sure it's all perfectly up to pitch. It's handy to do it with a tuner. So my tuner's pretty good. It's on my amp. You can't see it, but it's on my amp. I've got 2 green lights. And when it's the two green lights are on, that's it, perfectly tuned. So I'll just put this, make sure this is definitely perfectly tuned. The 2 lights are showing up. So then what I would do is put my finger there. And to me that's too low, so you just turn that a wee turn. Check, yeah. Still it's the Allen keys buzzing. Right, that's that one done. So if you're using a chronic, chronic. Some digital tuners don't work. I've got a tuner like the tuners you get on your phone. You can't do this with a tuner that's on your phone. It doesn't work, so it has to be like a pedal that's got the wee dial, and it should read the same. So as soon as you've tuned it up, I'm doing the wrong one. Because I'm trying to do this and look at the tune at the same time. That's too high as well. So I reckon, by the looks of this, there's probably like a million difference between the two necks. That's that perfect. So if you use one of the, I think with one hand, I don't think. This is obviously going to be a wee bit, yeah. I'm not going to do editing and stuff like that, so it's too high as well. So you just keep at it. This is obviously quite close because there's not much of a difference between this neck and the square. Let's see if I've got a tuner kicking out to show you. Yeah. So these sort of tuners work as well. I don't know about the ones that clip onto your headstock. I don't have a clue. I don't use them. I either use the one on my amp, or the one on my phone. But I know the one on the phone doesn't work. You can't do your intonation with the one on the phone. It has to be one of these, or if you've got it on an amp or a pedal. So when you tune this up to E, and then you press the 12 string, then it'll if it tells you it's in tune, that's it intonated. If it's too low, it needs to be higher. You obviously turn it if your guitar's lying flat, you turn it towards the knobs. If it's too low, you need to make it higher, so you turn it towards the knobs. If it's too high, you turn it the other way to lower it down. Eventually you'll get it so it'll read the same, exactly the same tuning as open and in the ear 12. And as soon as you do that, your guitar's intonated. So that's pretty much it. That's how I set up my guitars. I know it's got a bit of rambling and I wasn't talking for certain bits, but this is the first time I've tried to show people how to do stuff on a video. So it's about half an hour long. There's nothing. That's the kind of way. The way I've showed you there is the way I kind of basic set up a guitar. You can get the action lower, but you've got the chance you'll get fret buzz. But that's every guitar I've got is set up the exact same way I've just did it there. It's 2mm at the bass side, 1.5 to 1.75 at the treble. The saddles are at the same radius as the fretboard. You can do it if you know the measurements for here. So you could do it. You know, you couldn't because the bass. I was going to say if the bass side, if you set the bass side at 2, and you set the treble side at 2, then you could just do that. You could just go over the 12 frets. But I always use the radius gauge. So I think I'm just going to have to live with the fact that these grub screws and the saddles are quite high up. I think maybe they're just too long, maybe. But I definitely need a shim in it if I was going to keep the square neck. So that's how I set up my guitar. The only thing I've got to do now is put the truss rod cover back on. Because I've blacked the headstock. See, it's nice and flat. Fretboard's nice and flat. Again. that's how I set up my guitars. A bit random, a bit all over the place because it's the first time I've tried to set my camera facing down. I'm trying to look at my amp at the same time. I should have set it up a bit better, but hey ho, it is what it is. You can't get the rough just idea how I set them up. And that's it. I changed the pickups of these, so these are now got different pickups in it because I wanted them to match the humbucker. I've fitted the 1997 Aria Pro 2 Magna series pickups into the Aria Pro. I've drilled out the tuner holes because these were obviously the wee ones, so I've drilled them out waiting for my new tuners to come. I'm trying to think what else I did all this morning, just faffing about, and just when I was about to put this neck on and set it up, I thought I'll just do a wee video on it. So if it is all over the place, I'm sorry, but it's my first time doing a video where I'm showing people how to do stuff. I hope you can understand how I do it. It makes sense, but as I say to everybody, doing a setup of your guitar, it's a personal preference. It's just how you want your guitar to play. This is just the way I do it, and I've done it this way for numbers of years. As I said, all you need to remember is if you change strings to a different gauge, this is with bass or guitar, you need to do the full setup again. If you're just changing the same brand of strings, same gauge, everything, you just need to check it when you change the strings. I would always check it. Every time I change strings, I'll take the strings off, clean the fretboard. I'll spray some WD-40 down the hole where the truss rod adjustment is. Just a wee bit, just a wee spot. Clean everything up, put new strings on it, stretch the strings out, double check all the setup, then leave it sitting for 24 hours, and then check the truss rod again, and the intonation, just check the intonation, it should be fine as long as it's the same gauge of strings. And that's it. That's how I set up a guitar. So all you need to do is, if you're going to start doing it yourself, is set a radius gauges, the wee card gauge. You can use a set of calipers, which I've got in here actually. You could do it with a set of digital calipers as well. You don't have to buy that. You can use a set of digital calipers because it's got the depth in it. So you just set the depth, and then that would do. You can do the same string adjustment there. Card's very handy, very cheap. You can buy. I'm sure I got a pack of these. You had to wait 3 weeks for it, right enough. But I got that and a few other things. I think it was about £4 or something off AliExpress. I've actually bent the card to try to use it as a screwdriver, a flat screwdriver head, but it doesn't make a difference. And you also need a set of Allen keys. I wouldn't go with the one that comes with the guitar. If you get one that comes with the guitar, I would get a decent set. I've got these. They're very square edges, so when you do put them in, the chances are when you tighten your truss rod, you're not going to slip and chew the inside of the Allen key. So try and get ones that are really squared edges. So when you do put it in here, you get a nice tight fit with your Allen key. When you do turn it, it's a very precise turn, because if they're rounded edges, don't use the ones that are got the ball end at the end of it. Don't use these. Whatever you do not use these ones. And think, because you can angle it to turn the Allen key. I don't know how many times I've seen somebody snapping that ball end off inside their adjuster. So don't use the ones. I've got this because this is actually for, these are ones I use for the motorbike. to take panels off of motorbikes because it's a really long one. You can use the T-bar ones as long as it's long enough to get past the headstock, but definitely do not use them because that end can, and I have seen it happen, snap inside the adjuster. Once that snaps in, there's no chance of getting out. You've knackered your adjuster. Yeah, that's about it. Get yourself a tuner, or a tuning pedal. Is that chronograph, is that what you call that? I don't know. But as I said, the one on the phone, you can't do your intonation, but the one on the phone I've tried doesn't work, doesn't register it for some reason. So yeah, it's be one on your amp, or a pedal, or one of the ones. I don't know about the one at the headstock, don't have a clue if that works or not. I've never tried one, I don't use them, because I can see them on my amp, so I don't really need it. That's about it. As I said, I hope you understood what I was trying to say to you. Hope it helps. I'm going to get comments saying that that's not how you do it. I don't really care, that's how I do it. As I said, it's a personal preference how you set up your guitar. Every guitar I buy, even though it looks and it plays well, I reset it up for myself. As long as you don't crank on the truss rods adjuster while you've got string tension, you should be fine. Just do it small increments, don't do it full cranks. You should be fine with string tension. Some people do take the string tension off, adjust it, restring it up. You don't have to, as long as you don't crank on it, you'll be fine. And that's it. I hope you've understood it. A wee bit long, baffling video. Don't know if I'm going to put this is Sunday. I don't know if I'm going to put it up once I've finished, or I'll put it up for another video. I actually might just put it up. I might just put it up a day anyway. So, right. Hope you're all safe. Speak to you next week. Carry on.